Be yourself sounds like freedom. So why does it so often feel like another job? We are told to be authentic, to have a voice, to know who we are, to bring our whole self to work, but not too much of it, to be relaxed, but also impressive, to be vulnerable, but not messy, to be unique, but still understandable to the room. Slowly, the self becomes something we manage. There is the professional version, the friendly version, the interesting version, the healed version, the version that is above caring what people think, but somehow still checks whether people noticed. There is the version we show on a profile, the version we explain in a bio, the version we edit into a message before sending it. Modern life has made identity feel like a small public relations department that never closes. Even rest can become part of the image. We do not simply go for a walk. We become the kind of person who goes for walks. We do not simply read a book. We become someone with a thoughtful morning routine. This is not because we are foolish. It is because the world keeps asking us to turn ourselves into something legible, a brand, a story, a stable answer to the question, so, what are you like? But a human being is not always a stable answer. Sometimes we are generous, sometimes we are guarded, sometimes we are brave in one room and afraid in another. Sometimes the most honest version of us is not polished, consistent, or easy to summarize. This is why the modern command to be yourself can become strangely tiring. It often means find the real self, package the real self, explain the real self, improve the real self, and make sure the real self is still attractive to other people. Authenticity becomes another performance. The costume is more casual, the language is more sincere, but the body is still on stage. This is where a Taoist idea can help. The word is Ziran. It is often translated as naturalness, or something being so of itself. But this does not mean doing whatever we feel like. It is not a romantic excuse for impulse. It is not a command to ignore other people. It is not the idea that every unfiltered reaction is somehow deep and true. Ziran points to a different question. What happens when a thing is allowed to move according to its own nature, without being carved too aggressively into an image? A tree does not spend the afternoon trying to look tree-like. Water does not rehearse how to seem fluid. A bird does not improve its personal brand by becoming more bird. Human beings are more complicated. We have memory. We have shame. We have language. We have families, jobs, histories, and rooms where it is not safe to say everything. So naturalness for a human being cannot mean pure spontaneity. It means noticing where we are adding unnecessary performance to what is already difficult. Consider a conversation. There is the conversation itself, and then there is the extra work of trying to appear calm, clever, generous, emotionally mature, and completely unbothered. There is listening, and then there is performing the look of a good listener. There is saying sorry, and then there is trying to sound like the sort of person who gives beautiful apologies. The first layer may be needed. The second layer often exhausts us. Or think about work. There is doing the work, and then there is performing competence around the work. Answering quickly so nobody thinks we are slow. Sounding certain before we have had time to think. Turning every meeting into a small audition for the role of capable person. The strange thing is that this performance can make us less capable. We are not only solving the problem, we are watching ourselves solve the problem. It is like trying to dance while checking in a mirror whether we look natural. The more carefully we monitor naturalness, the less natural we become. Social media makes this easier to see, but it did not invent the problem. It simply gave the performance a stage and a set of numbers. A thought can become a post. A meal can become evidence of a lifestyle. A quiet moment can become content about quietness. By the time we finish managing the impression, the original feeling has moved on. Taoist naturalness asks us to notice this added layer, not to hate it, not to pretend we can live without roles. Roles are part of life. The problem is when the role becomes so tight that the living person inside can no longer breathe. In some Taoist writing, there is a suspicion of over-carving. The plain block is valued before it is cut into an impressive object. The usefulness of a cup depends on its empty space. The strength of water comes partly from not insisting on one rigid shape. These images do not ask us to become simple in a childish way. They ask us to stop confusing refinement with constant self-interference. Some self-improvement is helpful. We can learn patience. We can repair harm. We can become less careless and less ruled by fear. But some self-improvement is only another mirror. We do not become freer. We become better at supervising ourselves. The Taoist move is not to throw away discipline. It is to ask whether the discipline serves life or whether it only polishes the performance. Naturalness may look very ordinary. It may look like answering a message without arranging your personality inside it. It may look like admitting, "I do not know yet," without turning uncertainty into a dramatic identity crisis. It may look like letting a conversation be slightly awkward without rushing to become charming. It may look like doing good work without narrating yourself as a good worker. This is difficult because performance is often rewarded. The polished self gets approved. The consistent self is easier to market. The branded self is easier to understand. But what is easy to understand is not always what is most alive. The more we reduce ourselves to a clear image, the more we may lose contact with the part of us that responds freshly, the part that can be surprised, the part that can change its mind, the part that can laugh before deciding what the laughter means, the part that can be kind without using kindness as proof of identity. So a useful practice is not to ask, "Who am I really?" That question can become endless. It can turn the self into a hidden object we are supposed to excavate perfectly. A gentler question is, "Where am I performing so hard that I can no longer move naturally?" Try 3 smaller questions. First, what am I trying to prove here? Sometimes we do need to show skill, care, or reliability, but often the proof continues long after the need has passed. Second, what would I do if I did not have to make this say something about me? If the walk did not have to mean I am balanced, if the book did not have to mean I am thoughtful, if the apology did not have to mean I am evolved, what would remain? Third, where is the living response underneath the image? Maybe the real response is simple. I am tired. I am curious. I am not ready. I care. I need time. I was wrong. I just want to be honest enough to take the next step. Ziran does not give us a new personality. It gives us a way to loosen the grip around personality. It reminds us that a life is not only an image to manage. It is a movement, a response, a relationship with the moment that cannot always be planned in advance. You do not have to become a more impressive version of yourself in every room. You do not have to turn every feeling into a story. You do not have to make your ordinary life prove that you are deep, healed, interesting, productive, or free. Sometimes freedom begins much more quietly. Not with a grand declaration of who you are, but with one small relief. For a moment, you stop watching yourself be yourself, and something more natural has room to appear. At Eastern Elements, we translate Taoist ideas into simple ways of seeing modern life. If this helped, explore more at easternelements.com. And today, try one small question. Where am I performing more than I am living?